If you have been part of the BL community and recently used X, you have probably seen this tweet, or at least the quote tweets floating your timeline. This is the tweet that started it. A chain of posts with the same idea, all pushing the message, and it sparked a wave of outrage from a lot of people. Some called the author classist, some others called her xenophobic, some brought back old controversies from years ago. What could have stayed as a simple discussion turned into a wildfire. Again, but here's the thing, this is not really just about Euja. This is about a much bigger problem that keeps coming back. Every time something like this happens, the same patterns repeats. People split into two sides, people start digging up dirt from the past, people start yelling at each other like it's a war, and honestly, it never goes anywhere. So today I want to break down this whole mess. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong for you, but I'm here to share my perspective, fully, calmly, without twisting anyone's words. But why did this tweet blow up so much? It's not like this is the first time a Korean manhwa author has gone off about illegal sites on a random Tuesday. Trust me, I've been here for a long time. It happens all the time. But this time, it was different. What made people lose their minds was one specific detail. Please disappear from this world. They started calling her out. Like, you're a horrible person, how dare you wish death on people just because they don't have money to read legally. No matter how much you hate illegal readers, you can just say stuff like that. And honestly, dude, this is just so absurd. People on Twitter can be so incredibly sensitive when it's convenient for them. Some start saying, oh, it's a language barrier thing. But let's be real, even translated into any language, this is not a death threat. It's just like saying, get out of my sight, go away. It's a super common way to express anger or frustration, not an actual wish for someone's death. I don't even know why they made a big deal out of it. After that, she posted a series of follow up tweets that, according to many users, only made things worse. Here's a random quote tweet that pretty much sums up the overall reaction. Expect the pro-capitalist artist who tells poor people to disappear and is a classist. This was the main narrative now, that she's a classist person who hates poor people and doesn't deserve support. I'm going to show you the tweets below so you can read them for yourself. And while I was digging for more examples of the insults she was getting, I found something that honestly made me laugh. Apparently, the whole thing somehow turned into a political discussion amongst Koreans too. People started attacking her because she has voted for the candidate Lee from the Liberal Party. And he had once said that he supports piracy. So now the conservatives were using this against her, basically saying, if you were really against piracy, you wouldn't have voted for him. This just shows how wild these discussions can get. It went from this author, these classes, to your vote doesn't align with your message. The term is actually quite harsh in Korean still. It's based on words like parasite or insect. And yes, it was meant to be offensive, let's not pretend it wasn't. But the intention behind it wasn't to mock people for being poor. It was to insult illegal readers directly. And well, insults are insults, they are meant to be offensive. But it's important to understand that this specific insult was being aimed at illegal readers, not at poor people. Honestly, when I first saw how big this situation was getting, I thought maybe people had actually found something serious, something genuinely harmful that needed to be called out. But then people started pulling random things just to make Uja look even worse, like saying she hated her own fan for making a fan art she didn't like, and then she sent people to harass them. But none of that actually happened. Their talking was about just a fan who posted a screenshot from one of her works, but they confused the character with another one from a different story she wrote. Euja simply correct them. That's it, that's the whole thing. But people kept twisting her words, putting things in her mouth, and exaggerating everything just to make her look worse. It's like they weren't even interested in what really happened anymore. They just wanted to keep dragging her. And this is where I come in to remind you of past controversies that were actually bad. The ones people should be focusing on instead of blowing up things that don't even make sense. Because with all the noise around this, I thought maybe people were finally bringing those back into the conversation. But apparently, only a few people even remember them. And from what I've seen, those cases didn't really have any serious consequences at the time. They just kind of faded away. So let's talk about them. The things that did deserve to be called out. Now let's be clear. Other Korean authors, and not just in the BL niche, have said some really messed up things in the past. Things that everyone pretty much agrees are way out of line. And no, these weren't just a heat of the moment insults about illegal reading. These were comments that had nothing to do with piracy at that point. The anger towards illegal readers does not excuse insulting entire populations or disrespecting someone's religion. This is exactly what happened with these three authors. They were arguing about illegal scans coming from Muslim countries, and in the middle of the fight, they dropped these comments. Yeah. And speaking of controversial people on this platform, I'm pretty sure most of you know YD, a BL author who's been at the center of a lot of heated discussions about illegal reading. I'll say that she's probably the most vocal when it comes to a fighting against piracy. Like, out of all the authors, she's the one who made her battle super public. She's extremely passionate about this topic, but let's just say being that public has gotten her into more than a few messy situations. For example, she once told an illegal reader that she was not going to publish in a country of thieves. Another time, she told a Brazilian illegal reader to improve the environment of her country. And probably the worst one, she once compared illegal manhwa reading to things like spy cameras used against women and even to child exploitation content. One of the most serious things YD has done is that she has posted photos of minors, their full names or their usernames. This basically opens the doors for her fans to track these kids down, find their social media accounts, and starts harassing them. Sometimes even harassing their families. Like, what exactly is this supposed to achieve? Do you really think that this kind of mass bullying is going to make people suddenly want to read legally? It's not just immature, it's straight up dangerous. This is not how you set an example. This is where I really want to talk about the part that bothers me the most about the legal community. They are honestly just as bad or sometimes even worse than the authors they support. Supporting an author doesn't mean you have to blindly follow them and keep pushing this idea that mass harassment is going to fix anything. Like, seriously, what's the plan here? You think insulting the mom of some illegal reader is going to magically make them switch to legal platform? And it's wild to me how they just let grown-ass adults say this kind of stuff. The kind of stuff that I can only imagine Nana G 12-year-old say on the internet. All in the name of honoring their work. It's honestly insane to me how far some people go to kiss their author's feet. Like, I'm not even talking about authors who simply say, I fucking hate illegal readers. That's honestly totally valid. They're defending their work, they have every right to be upset about it. I'm talking about these specific authors who think mass harassment and throwing insults at entire communities, not just illegal readers, it's somehow okay. And what's even worse, some of these fans think that this is actually helping the illegal reading cause. Like, girl, be serious. They've been doing this for years and they just don't stop. Platforms like X have really made people way too bold and way too comfortable saying things they wouldn't dare never to say to someone's face. Some of the so-called legal supporters love to act all high and mighty, throwing around things like, do you even get an education? Which, let's be honest, is just a very backhanded way of mocking people from poor, third world countries like mine, all while calling them thieves. But here's where the real hypocrisy shows. These same people will turn around and start using racist insults, xenophobic comments, and even start disrespecting the name of a god from the religion of the illegal readers, just to get under their skin. And they know it's wrong, because right after they post some half-baked apology like, oh, I didn't mean it, it was only directed at the illegal readers, not my legal fans who are part of those communities, please don't get offended, I'm sorry, it wasn't my intention. Like, are you serious? You are a whole adult. Being angry is not an excuse, it's never an excuse, not in any situation. Saying, I just said that because I was angry doesn't magically make it okay. That kind of behavior just shows your true colors. And if you're going to say stuff like that, at least have the guts to admit it. Admit that those are your real thoughts. But no. When it's time to collect money from the readers who also belong to those communities, suddenly they want to act all sweet and innocent like they never mean it. Going back to why this tweet where she made that infamous comparison to those serious crimes, I want to give you the full picture, because I was there. I remember the entire context. But let me be clear, even with all that context, I'm not here to excuse the way she phrased that tweet. So here's what happened. YD has shared a news article about how South Korean authorities took down several piracy websites. And during the investigation, they found out where the money from those low-quality ads was actually going. Turns out some of that ad revenue was being used to fund criminal clubs, where minors were being exploited and where women were being filmed without their consent. That's the connection YD was trying to point out, that by visiting piracy sites, you could unknowingly be supporting these horrible things. These piracy sites can run for free. They need money to keep the servers up. And where does that money come from? From those low-quality, shady ads you see plastered all over the site. The ones that are sketchy, clickbait, sometimes full of scams or worse. These ads make money in two ways. Per click, when you actually click them, and per impression, which means they make money just because you visited the site and the ad loaded in your browser. That's right, sometimes you don't even need to click, just showing up is enough to make these sites money. So yeah, it could be a powerful argument, it's a real reason to stop using illegal websites. But again, the way YD delivered it completely derailed that point. When you say it like, illegal readers are just as bad as these criminals, you lose people. You stop the conversation. Because that is not a fair comparison. You can't just throw people into the same basket as literal criminals just because they read an illegal scan. There was a better way to say this. There was a better way to teach people about the real risk. But sadly, that's not what happened. Piracy brings popularity and popularity brings sales. Illegal readers often say piracy is a good because it gives the work more exposure, and that will eventually turn into sales. The reality is, not always. Sometimes it does. There have been cases, but let's not act like that's always the case, because popularity doesn't automatically mean money. You can make millions of people reading your story illegally and still have almost no one paying for it. You don't eat popularity, you don't pay rent with exposure. Sometimes that visibility just leads to more free readers, not more paying ones. Piracy doesn't cause real damage because most wouldn't pay anyway. This is the imaginary losses argument, and to be fair, there's truth to that. A lot of the numbers you hear about losses are estimates made by companies. They count every illegal read as a lost sale, which isn't realistic. Not every illegal reader would have become a customer. Some people just weren't going to pay no matter what. So those losers are theoretical. But that doesn't mean piracy has zero impact either. When a series gets heavily pirated in certain languages or regions, sometimes companies simply decide it's not profitable to release there. They cancel locations, stop new seasons, or never license the work in that language. That's not just a company loss. That directly affects the authors and the people who work on the series. So yeah, sometimes piracy can kill future chances for the story. But companies inflate the numbers to push their narrative. And that's another thing. The big loss numbers we always see, they always come from companies, and yeah, those numbers are often propaganda. They love to exaggerate the danger to make you feel guilty and scare you into going legal. Piracy is a complicated topic. A lot of people try to talk about it like it's black and white. Either piracy is always evil and killing the industry, or it's always good because it makes things popular. But the truth is, it's a mix of both. What really hurts artists the most is when people who can buy their work choose not to. But even if companies inflate the numbers, that doesn't mean the authors are lying. Many of them are treated badly by those same companies. They don't get told the real numbers, they don't get paid fairly, but they believe what their publishers tell them. So when they say piracy is taking food off my table, they are not lying. That's what they have been told, and they have seen their income go down when illegal sites explode. And the sad thing is that their anger gets mocked and ridiculed, and people brush it off like it doesn't matter. Now, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the cultural and work conditions in Korea, because that's where a lot of these reactions come from. I think it's really important to understand that Korea's work culture, and actually many Asian countries' work cultures, are known for being extremely intense and often straight up abusive. And this isn't just in the comic industry, it's a much bigger problem. In Korea, there's something called the pali pali culture, which literally means hurry, hurry. It's a mindset where things must be done quickly, efficiently, without pause. People are expected to move fast, work fast, and deliver fast. The corporate lifestyle in Korea is notorious for long working hours, often unpaid overtime, minimal vacation, sometimes no vacations at all, huge social pressure to perform and endure no matter how exhausted you are. In fact, Korea has one of the highest suicide rates in developed countries, and a big part of this is directly linked to their toxic work culture. People burn out, people get sick, people just can't keep up. So when we talk about webtoon authors suffering terrible work conditions, they are not outliers. They are living through the same hyper-competitive overwork system that so many Koreans experience. And when you add that fast-paced publishing schedule of webtoons on top of that, you get people who are literally killing themselves to meet deadlines. It's also not just Korea. Japan has a similar work culture. You have probably heard about the word karoshi, which literally means death by overwork. It's an actual legal term in Japan. There are real cases of people dying because they work themselves to death. Even China's 996 culture, working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, is considered normal in many industries. So when you see these authors struggling, snapping, or breaking down online, it's not just about piracy, it's about living in a system that pushes you until you collapse. And that's something I think we should all understand before jumping to conclusions. The work conditions for comic artists, whether Korea, Japan, or China, can be brutal to the point of destroying their bodies. There's a female Korean artist, author of How to Protect the Heroine's Older Brother, who literally suffered a miscarriage because her editor didn't allow her to take a break during her pregnancy. In this industry, taking a break is often not an option. Not because they don't want to, but because they can't. Platforms expect weekly deadlines. Let me give you some extreme but sadly common examples. Kosuke, the author of Gangsta, lost vision in her left eye and some of her fingers are permanently paralyzed. Togashi, creator of Hunter x Hunter, has such severe back and hip issues that he literally can't sit on a chair anymore. He draws laying down, and he has openly said that he can't even wipe himself properly because of his condition. SIU, author of Tower of God, suffers from spinal hernias, and there are even mangakas who literally passed away because their working conditions destroyed their health. This isn't just rare, this is a pattern. The work culture in Eastern countries is extremely different from the West. So when people on Twitter say, why are authors fighting minors on the internet instead of fighting their companies? Please remember that many of them are already fighting. They have protested, they have gone on strike, they have tried to expose abusive contracts, like what happened with the Legend Blacklist scandal. They are doing what they can in a system that is stacked against them. Korean webtoon artists have actually protested against their own platforms. In January 2018, about 100 artists and readers staged a protest in front of Legend's headquarters in Seoul. They demanded better working conditions and were reacting to things like late fee penalties, up to 9% of monthly income, forced plot and contract edits, missing payments, and a blacklist used to punish critical creators. Also happening in 2021. Legend pledged to remove late fees and apologize. One of the biggest cases happened with Kakao Entertainment too. In 2025, the webtoon labor union literally accused Kakao of unfair labor practices, like refusing to negotiate with them. They even filed a case with Korea's Labor Relations Commission. This wasn't some small complaint, it was serious enough to reach national headlines, and it's not the first time this happened. Some Kakao employees also quit the company after a series of internal conflicts and changes that left creators in worse positions. For me, even after learning that sometimes piracy can help a story gain popularity, I've decided that I prefer to read legally. Not because I want to brag my moral superiority, not because the companies are saints, but because as someone who's also an artist, I know what it feels like to have your work undervalued, to face burned out, to pour your life into something that people treat like it's just a free toy. Supporting legally is how I choose to show my respect. As an artist myself, I've been seeing firsthand how our work is constantly devalued. You hear things like, it's just drawings, you can't really make a living from that. Why would you charge so much for something so simple? This is why I take this whole excuse people use to pirate while disrespecting the artist's work even more personal. It's not just about the money, it's about the constant dismissal of the effort, the skill, the hours poured into creating something that people clearly enjoy, yet refuse to respect. But there's something I really want to address from a legal reader's side. Lately, I've been seeing people spreading this idea that this is why they prefer to support, and by support it's still pirate, Chinese comics, manhwas, and danmeis, because apparently Chinese artists don't care if you pirate their work or they make them free anyway. Some people even went as far as sharing fake screenshots of a conversation with MXTX, supposedly saying she was fine with illegal translations of her books to prove their point. But this has become a very weird narrative, that only this kind of artists deserve support, that only these creators are humble enough because they don't fight piracy. This is such a harmful mindset still. You are ignoring that every artist has their own limits, their own goals, and their own personal relationship with their work. For some, it's just a hobby, for others, it's their livelihood. And more importantly, you cannot compare the legal circumstances of Korean or Japanese creators to Chinese creators. In China, the system is completely different. Many authors literally can get official ISBNs, can publish their work legally, or face strict censorship, especially when it comes to LGBTQ stories. That doesn't mean one creator deserves more respect than the other. It just means that they are working under totally different realities. You can cherry pick which artist boundaries you choose to respect based on what's convenient for you. Well, this Chinese author is okay with illegal readers. Korean authors should be like that too. And also people love twisting this kind of kindness into something super toxic like, see? The authors who complain are just greedy and ungrateful. No, nobody is obligated to thank you for stealing their work. This idea of at least they are getting rid is just entitled. You are not doing them a favor by pirating. And you guys love to scream, I don't read that trash, I hate BL stories that romanticize abuse, it's always the same mediocre cliche tropes. But yet you still reading them, guys are still reading that story, you still keep giving them attention. I also hate those kind of stories. I would love to move past them and finally reach a golden era where we can focus more on meaningful, diverse, and healthier narratives. But if you really think those stories are garbage, if you really believe they have zero value and you will never pay for something like that, why do you keep consuming them? Why do you keep talking about them? Why do you keep giving them views and hype? You're literally proving to those creators that, at the very least, their stories do have entertainment value to you. Otherwise, you would have stopped. Otherwise, you would have moved on to promote and uplift the kind of stories you claim to actually want. But no, you are still here consuming the same thing you hate over and over. Act accordingly to what you say. And I do think you guys have no right to complain about this story if you don't pay for it. Unfortunately, money rules, and if you are not financially supporting those stories with narratives that you would like to see more, how do you expect the focus to change? I really don't enjoy the legal readers community at all. I thought that maybe I could find my own community that also aligns with my ideals, but they just love jumping into fights that go absolutely nowhere. Like, let's be honest, insulting the mother of a random 15-year-old girl from Mexico, posting her face, exposing her Facebook profile so grown adults can go harass her entire family, that's not going to magically make everyone go read legally. If anything, it's just immature. It's embarrassing, especially when these same people claim they want to set the example. It's ridiculous. I fully support educating people about how the industry works and showing readers how piracy actually affects authors behind the scenes. That's a good thing, that's worth doing. But these pointless internet fights, they help no one. And actually, they usually end up exposing the dirty laundry of the people starting them. And that's where I seriously lost patience with this community. Not because they defend legal reading, because I do too, but because they confuse supporting the author with forming a personality cult around them. Just because I read their work legally doesn't mean I have to blindly worship them. It doesn't mean I have to pretend they're always right. It doesn't mean I have to stay silent when they say something messed up, very ignorant comment. It doesn't mean that I can't give constructive feedback because I genuinely want their story to do well. Honestly, that's what broke me. Seeing people in this community actually attacking you for giving constructive criticism to another. Like, I'm literally someone who reads their work. I enjoy it and I care about it and I want to give my perspective on where this story is going. That is not a bad thing. And look, I get authors shouldn't change their entire story just because readers complain. I know that readers are not always right, but saying something like, hey, can we please stop romanticizing rape in stories is a 100% valid criticism, and it's a conversation worth having. But instead, these people come at you with, well, just go read something else then. If you don't like it, then stop reading it. Why are you reading this author if you already know what their work is like? And it's so dumb. It's okay to love an author's work and still want them to do better. Supporting legally doesn't mean you turn your brain off. I'm not here to tell you that piracy is fine. I'm not here to tell you to go and read everything illegal. But I'm also not here to blindly defend a system that has failed so many creators. I want to encourage people to read legally when they can, to support the creators they love, but I also want to remind everyone that supporting legally doesn't mean blindly follow everything an author does. It doesn't mean worshipping the author no matter what they say. It doesn't mean attacking people or calling them criminals for giving a constructive opinion. And you know what? Sometimes it's the publishers who are the real problem. Sometimes it's the companies who create impossible conditions for both creators and readers. Maybe the conversation should be how, how can we make this industry better, safer, and more accessible for everyone? I don't have all the answers, but I think it's okay to question things. It's okay to love webtoons and still call out toxic behaviors. It's okay to support legal reading while still demanding better from authors and companies. If you uh, if you got here, thank you very much for listening. Even if we don't agree with each other, it's okay. I hope that at least you have learned something new or something that you didn't know about before.
사랑해줄게.